Good afternoon, card community. It is RJ, and it is time for the Sunday Trivia Recap. Hooray! Loud cheers, mass hysteria, fireworks going off, rioting in the streets, people not knowing what day, time, or year it is, utter chaos, and yet we still have time for some great trivia and awesome prizes. So, without further ado, let's get to it. I was celebrating the All-Star game last year because the National League finally won another one. So I was giving away All-Star cards all week. Monday, the prizes you were going for: 1983 Topps Mike Schmidt All-Star, 1986 Ozzie Smith All-Star from Topps. Those are the two cards you were going for. The question was, who won the first All-Star game, American or National, and what was the final score? Now, clearly, the American League won it because that was Babe Ruth's team. Well, that may not be why they won it, but they won it, and it was 4-2. Now, the game, interestingly, I'm going to take a little bit of time here and throw some history of the game around. So the All-Star game in '33 happened because Chicago was hosting the World's Fair that year. And a newspaper man from the Chicago Tribune somebody came to the fair organizers and wanted to put on an expedition of sport of some sort. And they decided on an all-star game. In other words, the best of the American League versus the best of the National League, kind of like a World Series, but not limited to two teams. And I'm going to go through real quick. I have the Conlon Collection cards highlighting it. They called it the Game of the Century. It was only supposed to be a one-and-done thing. Obviously, it became multiple year, but let's take a look at the starting lineup for your American League All-Stars. So now the pitchers batted back then. There wasn't any DH. So who were the starting lineups for your All-Star game? American League, the team that won: Ben Chapman in left, Charlie Gehringer, Hall of Famer, at second, Babe Ruth in right, Lou Gehrig at first, Al Simmons in center, Jimmy Dykes at third, Joe Cronin at shortstop, Rick Farrell at catcher, Lefty Gomez pitching. All right. Now, interestingly, let's look at how many of those starting American Leaguers are Hall of Famers. All right. Not Ben Chapman. So Charlie Gehringer, 1, Ruth, 2, Gehrig, 3, Simmons, 4, not Jimmy Dykes, Cronin, 5, Rick Farrell, 6, Lefty Gomez, 7. 7 out of your 9 starting members are in the Hall of Fame now. On your reserve, these are the American League. These are the people who weren't selected to start. Now, there are more. These are just the ones I have out of my Conlon collection. Lefty Grove, somebody many consider the best left-hander of all time, did not start. Obviously, Lefty Gomez did. Earl Averill, a stud outfielder for the Indians, didn't get the nod. General Crowder was a pitching sub. These guys aren't your Hall of Famers. And then Sammy West, center fielder, in reserve. So that was your American League team. Now, National League put up a pretty big and impressive team as well. Let's take a look. Pepper Martin, third base, Frankie Frisch, second, Chuck Klein in right, Chick Haffey in left, Bill Terry at first, Wally Berger in center, Dick Bartell at short, Jimmy Wilson catcher, and Bill Hallahan at pitcher. Now, maybe it's because they had fewer Hall of Famers. That's why the National League didn't win, but let's take a look. Pepper Martin is not. Frankie Frisch, 1, Chuck Klein, 2, Chick Haffey, 3, Bill Terry, 4. I think that's the last one. Yeah, so they only had 4 Hall of Famers in their starting lineup. But look who they left on the bench now. Look who the National League left on the bench for a second. So Carl Hubble as pitcher. He could have started, and that would have been another Hall of Famer. Pie Traynor. I believe was Pie a third baseman or a shortstop? I can never remember. What Paul did. He was either a shortstop or a third baseman. I think both of those positions were non-Hall of Famers. So they could have had another one that could have been 6 right there. Your catcher is on the bench. On the bench now is Gabby Hartnett. That could have been a Hall of Famer. And then Paul Waner could have taken up a spot in the outfield. That would have been 4 more. They would have had 8 Hall of Famers to the American League's. What do I want to say? Only 7 Hall of Famers in the starting lineup. Maybe that is a bit of a strategy that the National League or the National League failed to obtain. Anyway, the answer is 1933. The first All-Star game went to the American League over the National League, 4-2. It's quite the history of the All-Star game. It's fun to read once in a while. Those are your prizes for getting that question right. The individuals up on the screen were kind enough to submit a guess for this question. So as we are wont to do on my channel, we will shuffle once and spin. You must hit 3 times in order to claim the prize, simply because there's not a lot of people who guess, and I like to draw out the suspense and give everybody a shot, okay? I do love, I'm a big baseball history fan. Again, the All-Star game was supposed to be a one-and-done deal. It really was just tied around the Chicago World's Fair in 1933, but it was the Depression, and the thinking was, well, with everybody being so, down, a little bit of entertainment is a good thing, so they decided to continue it annually. Obviously, the only year since its inception that it didn't happen was what was it? It was actually 2020 in the middle of the COVID era. That's the only time the All-Star game never happened. Even in strike years or shortened years, with war or strikes, they always managed to get the All-Star game in. So yeah, in 2020, because we had the very short 60-game season, they didn't have an All-Star game in that year. But if you look at we will get to the record a little later. That's one of the questions, the overall record. I'll talk more about that at the time, but I don't think there's ever been a time when the entire starting lineup was a Hall of Famer. You go back, you're going to get some of the best players in the game. Obviously, in the All-Star game, I don't believe there ever was a game in which the entire starting lineup was made up of Hall of Famers. I'll have to double check that, do a little research on that. But having 7 out of 9 is pretty good. I think that's Ken's 3rd in a row there, or 3. I think that's 3 for Ken. It is. Okay, so Ken, God is great. You will be getting these 2 awesome cards. Congrats to you, sir. I'm shipping to Japan, people. I'm shipping to Japan. All right, Wednesday, I should say. On Wednesday, another simple question. I asked, in the entire history of the All-Star game, going back to 1933, who was the only player ever to hit a grand slam during an All-Star game? Now, the prize, well, let's just stick with the question because I have it right up here. We're going to watch as Mr. Fred Lynn hits an All-Star game home run in 1983. All-Star game grand slam, let me say.
First, Carew at second, Trio at third. 2 out. And he drives it to deep right. Back goes Murphy, away back, and there it is.
Dale Murphy being the right fielder there. That's Alfie Hammaker who gave it up for the Giants. There's Mike Schmidt right there, sitting there as he watches Fred Lynn run around the bases.
Here's his time at bat. Watch the reaction. He knows he touched it off. He's watching it.
A little fist pump for Fred Lynn as he sees it go over the wall.
The American League is a bit upset, man. What an inning. 7 runs in the 3rd.
There you go. So Fred Lynn was the answer. People up on the screen were kind enough to submit a guess, and the prizes you're going to get. 1982 tops, Mike Schmidt All-Star. 1983 tops, Bruce Sutter All-Star. Obviously, trying to stick with Hall of Famers at all times. So Ken at God is Great is out. He cannot win. You cannot win but once a week on my channel. So Ken has been removed. Everybody else up on the board is still, has a chance. So again, we will shuffle once and spin. Good luck to everybody on this one. I also was trying to think the other day. It's like, gee, he's the only person ever to hit a grand slam. Was there any other kind of, singularly legendary feat in All-Star Game? Well, yeah, there was only one that was ever not held, and that was back in 2020 because of the shortened season. But at one time I was wondering, well, gee, the All-Star Game, what else went along with the All-Star Game? Well, who got MVP award in the All-Star Game? Was there anybody who got a whole bunch? So one of the questions I was thinking about asking was, who had the most All-Star Game MVP award given to them? I didn't ask that because in researching, when I came up with that as a question, and something let me look up and figure this out so I know. Truth is, there were many players, not many, but there was about 5 different players who in their career achieved 2 MVPs in All-Star Game history, but nobody ever got 3 All-Star Game MVP awards. So with so many to choose from, I didn't feel like giving out a question that was, had multiple correct answers. I don't mind, 1 or 2 correct answers in a, or 2 or 3, I should say, possible correct answers for a question. But when you're getting past 3, I think it gets a little ridiculous. So I chose a different line of thinking for the final question. Although I also looked at the All-Star Game, or the MLB Home Run Derby. I thought that was something I maybe ask a question on, and I did find an interesting thing there, but I chose to hold it back for another question somewhere down the line. Okay, so Jeremy Michaels. Jeremy Michaels, congrats to you, sir. I don't think you've won in a while. Jeremy Michaels gets these 2 great All-Star cards. They'll be sent out very shortly. Our final question, moving on to Friday. The question asked was, what is the record of All-Star Game wins? So in other words, American versus National. Who has the most wins? Who has what's the record? And tell me the record. Don't just tell me that the American League or National League have more. What is the record? And it is the American League holding an advantage overall right now, but it is 47 to 44 with 2 ties. That's a question I'll probably ask in the future. In what 2 years were there ties in the All-Star Game competition? It's interesting, though, if you know your recent history, the American League, the National League won this past All-Star Game, and I think this was the first one they won in 12 years. It's been a long time since the National League won, but consider the record for a second. 47 for the American League, 44 for the National League, with the American League winning like the last 12. Well, how freaking good was the National League? The truth is that the National League, the American League started off winning all of them. They were kicking it with all the Yankees were just dominant. The shift came in the 50s. The shift, and a lot of people will talk about this. So I'm not making a commentary on the politics of this, but just a statement of fact. The National League was the first to integrate, and most of the teams went pretty heavily into signing the Negro League talent and other stars. And that is, a lot of critics, a lot of people with an agenda say that the reason the National League won so many games from the 50s into the 70s was because they were the first to embrace Negro and Latin American players. And you can say that's the reason. I'm not going to say one thing or another about that, but that is the claim. And then when things evened out again, the American League went back to taking the upper hand, and that's why the records are so dang close to this day. But I'm glad to see, as a Phillies fan, I'm glad to see the National League getting another win, especially since my Phillies had so much to do with it. Anyway, again, so the individuals on the screen were kind enough to send out a guess at that. And we have Jeremy Michaels, 1, and you are out. You cannot win but once. Ken, you are out. Everybody else up on the screen was kind enough to send a guess. Everybody's someone who has put in many guesses to my channel, so no necessary shout out, but there you have that. And again, shuffle once, spin. Good luck to everybody. What you are playing for is a 1984 Steve Carlton All-Star card and a 1986 George Brett All-Star card. So that's what's up for grabs now. Good luck to everybody, and here we go. Got a lot of great things to show off this coming week. A couple mail days, and then a purchase I made, which essentially gives me a master set of a product. Although if you look at my video, I would say, well, I do want one more thing to have so that I can actually, in my own mind, say I have, quote unquote, a master set of this particular product. I'll leave that for you guys to figure out when you watch Wednesday's video. But I do have, on Friday, I got a couple shout outs. I got a couple care packages from Break Results, 2 great channels in the card community. I don't want to spoil it now, but if you're out there watching and you know I bought into your break in the recent weeks, then you know I got your stuff, and I'll be showing off that on Friday. And I think I got some cool questions and prizes. I always think that, but I'll let you guys make the determination. I was half-minded to do a big, long video about my collecting room, only because I was in the middle of doing multiple trades. I hadn't done that, hadn't had a chance in a while to do that, but the wife was away this weekend, or this past week, so I finally had a chance to catch up on my trade, but I have to save that for another day. Is that 3 for Bear? I think there was 3 for Bear. No, just 2. This was first for Bear. For Basement Card. Oh, that's why it's Basement Card Collector. First for Basement. Okay. But yeah, I was half tempted to show off my collecting room, show you how I have everything completely organized. Yeah, right. Around the room as I'm going through all these trades. That's 3 for Good Nerds, isn't it? Yeah, 3 for 3 Good Nerds. So congrats to the guys over at 3 Good Nerds. You'll be getting these great all-star cards there. That's all I have for you all today. I hope you enjoyed that. And again, we got more great trivia and prizes coming out next week, so I hope you'll tune in for that. Appreciate everybody watching. Please consider like, subscribing, commenting, and all that jazz. I really do appreciate your support as I try my best to support everybody else in this great card community. So thanks for watching once again. I hope to see you all next week for more stuff. Keep collecting and take care.